I would show you the bunker that's in my backyard, but it is in fact invisible, buried, and not above the ground anymore. Super exciting to look out my window this morning and not see the giant 12-foot tubes we had delivered, or the incredibly deep 20-foot hole we had dug in my backyard to hide the tubes. Now, as you can tell, it is a nice sod-filled backyard with just 2 caps on top to hide the entry and exit shaft. Even though the yard is put back together, there's still a whole lot we have to do inside, like adding the floor to both the entry shaft and the bunker itself, and we have to talk about how much all of this cost me here in 2023. Let's dive right in. That is so deep down there. We're gonna start by adding a floor to this shaft. We are 18.5 feet down here, and then once the floor is built here, we can start adding the floor through the rest of the tube, which is under the earth, all the way to the exit shaft on the far side. The way we actually get into the bunker currently is with a ladder. At some point, of course, we'll install an elevator, but we gotta get everything built out first. And we have a lot of work ahead of us. Lucky for us, we planned in advance for this floor building moment, both in the elevator shaft and the tube itself. We stuck some of our longer 2x4 1/8-inch wall steel rectangular tubes into the pipe before we buried them. Previous Jerry making present day Jerry's job a whole lot easier. Thumbs up for that. Previous Jerry also welded long mounting strips of metal flat plate to the wall so we can secure the floor to the sides of my backyard bunker. The reason we didn't pre-install the floor before lowering the tubes below ground is because we knew we would have to rotate the tubes or clock them a bit to get them to connect after setting them in the hole, which would make any pre-installed floor or cabinets squampus and unusable. But now, after everything's been bolted, secured, and buried under 250,000 pounds of dirt, the bunker's never gonna move again, and we can use a brilliantly designed magnetic laser level to very accurately lay out the floor in a way that's perfectly flat. Having a level floor is extremely important, almost as important as airflow. While we're welding down to the bottom of the bunker, we have to be very conscious of the airflow. Since oxygen is rather important to the survivability of people in the bunker, we have 2 fans above the exit shaft that are pulling air through the bunker to remove any of the welding smoke or fumes. And when we're finally living down in the bunker, we'll have a whole different airflow system that keeps the oxygen in sufficient supply. The fans are pulling enough air in through the entrance and spitting it out through the exit to replace the oxygen in the bunker about every minute or so. The only downside, however, is that underground is going to maintain a temperature of about 50 or 60 degrees year-round, but since we're pulling in the freezing air from outside, it lowers the temperature considerably. So we'll have to find a way to heat up the bunker that doesn't use a whole lot of electricity from our batteries, which I'll talk about a bit later. However, when it comes to sleeping arrangements, we figured those out already. Huge thanks to 8 Sleep for sponsoring this video. The liquid-cooled and heated 8 Sleep mattress cover only uses about 200 watts to warm my bed up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit or cool it down to 55 degrees. My wife and I have been using this mattress cover on our own bed for the past few months. One half can be hot while the other half is cold. I got a new one just for this bunker. The 8 Sleep pod cover turns any mattress into the smartest bed on the planet with a subscription-powered autopilot feature that can use the heating and cooling of the bed alongside the heart rate and VRM metrics to help you fall asleep faster and give the most restful sleep possible, intelligently and scientifically. The 8 Sleep pod is clinically validated for deeper sleep and has a built-in thermal and vibratory alarm clock. Even after the subscription is over though, the heating and cooling functions of the mattress cover remain functional, which means perfect sleeping temperatures for us during the apocalypse, and as we all know, the best apocalypse is a cozy apocalypse. Get a substantial discount off of your own 8 Sleep pod cover with the link down in the description, and I'll show you where this mattress ends up after we finish installing the floor. If you remember this magnet from one of the previous videos, we're using it as a platform to hold the joist for the floor. Not how it was originally intended, but it's doing a good job. We're adding the floor structure about 3 feet up from the bottom of the tube, giving us about 9 feet of headroom in the center and a whole lot of usable storage space underneath the entire 40-foot length of the bunker. I plan on using the storage for food and water, since during an emergency situation, each person down here will need about 1 gallon of water per day to survive. So 6 people for 1 month would need a minimum of 200 gallons. Even more than that if we want to shower or fight off those aliens from signs. So I'm hoping to fit maybe like 500 to 1,000 gallons in here somehow, but that's a problem for future Jerry. We should have enough space under the floor to also run ventilation and the electrical. Electricity is important because an Xbox and a 90-inch TV sure ain't gonna power themselves. And it's also for other less important things like lights or cooking.
And this is how I'm gonna get them down into the bunker. That wasn't so bad. I'm gonna record this just in case I completely miss it.
Welcome back.
Now that we have the metal frame installed, the floor is surprisingly easy. Looks like there's just one more left. Before we put up the walls, let me give you a tour. We have the exit shaft right here, master bedroom here in the corner, bunk bedroom here in the middle, huge 90-inch TV along the center beam, couches, sinks, bathroom here in the corner, working our way over to the exit shaft where we're gonna install an elevator right here. And then we have a full setup of EcoFlow RV batteries. I've already made a full video with these batteries, taking an RV off grid, but they're gonna be perfect for the bunker. And this is what it looks like under the floor. From the very first day we started welding flanges on the bunker to today with the floor fully installed is about 2.5 months. Not bad at all when you consider that we've installed a full bunker underneath my backyard. But the big question is, how much did it all cost? So keep in mind that I tried to make this bunker as inexpensively as possible while not cutting any corners. Not that there are any corners in here. The bunker tubes themselves cost $31,959. All the steel for the entry, exit shaft, and the floor that we built today is $24,698.37. The laser cut Oshcut flanges that we used to bolt the 2 tubes together were $3,720. The telehandler was $4,498. The crane was $1,864. And there was a few smaller things like the sacrificial anode at $416 and the high mill Shurtar epoxy waterproofing that was $514. And the wood for the flooring that we installed today was $346.92. But the best money we spent on this entire project was for the excavation. Worth every penny, it was $30,249, and that includes all the machines and the brilliant guys working those machines. Worth their weight in gold, they're what made this project possible. So the final answer on how much this whole project has cost up till now is $98,265.35. Less than a maxed out Cybertruck or a Ford F-150 Raptor, but still pretty expensive. I was hoping to keep the whole project about $75,000 or $80,000, but I think staying below $100K is still pretty solid. However, there are a few things I'm leaving out. I'm not factoring in consumables like saw blades, grinding wheels, or the 5 miles worth of welding wire it took to put this thing together. That welding wire alone would be about $800. We also used a ton of tools, but you know, tools are an investment. At least that's what I tell my wife. I'm also not going to count the $15,000 worth of asphalt driveway damage, since that would ruin my sub $100,000 price point. I'm also not factoring in the 1,200 man hours that myself and my team put into this over the last 2.5 months, since technically one man can indeed build a bunker, like Colin Furs overseas. It would just take quite a bit more time, and our goal was to finish it before winter, which we accomplished. If those 1,200 man hours were billed at $25 an hour, which is like an average contractor rate here in Utah, it would have added about $30,000 to the price of the bunker. Overall, I think it's a pretty massive accomplishment to get the whole thing finished and underground in less than 10 weeks. Keep in mind that I'm in a pretty unique place with this project, where the views, the sponsorships, the jars of dirt, and the shirts we sell basically paid for the whole thing, and help fund my wheelchair manufacturing project, which is the ultimate goal. While it is cool to have a bunker, creating cool content so I can fund the wheelchair project is what this is really all about, and so far I think we've accomplished that. We have many more cool things to add, like the elevator, 90-inch flat screen TV, and a toilet, all equally important things. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and thanks a ton for watching. I'll see you around.